I was born into a world with no Spider-Man films. When 4 monthly titles, a pretty shit in retrospect cartoon series, and rumors of a James Cameron movie were all we had to sustain us. And this is why I have never understood nostalgia or its associated branding. I would never voluntarily go back to that time, nor seek to recreate it in any way. I was miserable back then. We all were. It was the heart of the Clone Saga. Now, here we are, on the 6th Spider-Man movie, the second reboot in under 5 years, and the 16th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because after the Civil War, look out, here comes the Iron Spider. After Amazing Spider-Man 2 proved to be significantly less than amazing, Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal and Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige managed to strike a deal. Sony gets to pay all the bills for, and keep all the box office profits of, the next 2 solo Spider-Man movies. Marvel gets to pick their casts and crews, keep all the money from Spider-Man's merchandising, and put Spidey in Captain America 3, Avengers 3, and Avengers 4. We'll see what happens after that. Sony could easily take its toy and go back home, leaving Spidey in the middle of yet another incomplete trilogy. Of course, Marvel could just as easily do the same, but why would they? They made every Spider fan in the world happy in 2016, even me, even in the midst of being horribly disappointed by Civil War. And they did it again in 2017, with this. Spider-Man, the title is an obvious double entendre. And that's amazing in itself, because all signs pointed to me hating this movie. I almost called it just from the fucking trailers. And thanks ever so much, everyone, for passing those around the internet every time they drop. Oh, new Spider-Man film, I said, secure in my own smug sense of superiority. And another reboot. Will young Mr. Parker adopt yet another mad scientist as a surrogate father figure? Yes, and because we're on Earth 2 times 10 to the 5th now, or close enough, that mad scientist will be Tony Stark. And will our villain be yet another evil Tony Stark? Amazingly enough, no. Instead, he'll be the most Spider-Man villain since pretty much ever. Not an evil Tony, so much as the anti-Tony. A Jungian shadow, containing all the things Tony denies about himself, both the good and the bad. It's like what Iron Man 2 tried to do, and then gave up on in the second act. But with Spider-Man. And as much as I still disagree with Marvel's perpetual need to de-age Peter Parker back to the sophomore year of high school, I can't deny that doing this allows him to fulfill an interesting role. The kid on the street who has, God's help him and us all, grown up inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's 10 years old at this point, in case you can't tell from the company logo, and 8 years have passed since the Chitauri invaded New York with a little help from a pissed-off Norse god. If Pete's 15 now, then he was 7 when that happened. The in-universe equivalent of a kid from Queens who was 7 on 9/11. I know y'all are out there. My analytics tells me as much, and on behalf of my knee-jerk nihilist generation, let me just say, I'm sorry. Things used to be, well, not better. I was about to say less stupid, but that's not right either. Actually, no. You know what? Things were always this fucked up. It's just the fucked up shit used to be easier to ignore. Now, of course, we all have the internet, where all of the fucked up shit comes to mingle. Thus, Tony found Peter through low-quality YouTube videos and took him to Berlin to have a big, pointless fight at the airport. Afterward, he dropped Peter back home, and life just kinda went on. Which proves to be a big come-down for our new Spider-Man. Hard to go from fighting Captain America back to the usual penny-ante, bicycle thief bullshit you deal with around your friendly neighborhood. Like every young hero ever, our Spider is overeager. So when he sees a trio of knuckleheads robbing ATMs with lasers and anti-gravity guns, he thinks, finally, something good. Guess the academic decathlon prep book didn't have any questions about hubris this year. Thus begins the spider's quest to track these weapons to their source, while ducking his new surrogate parent, trying not to worry his actual surrogate parent, failing to meet the demands of more traditional extracurricular activities, mooning over his academic decathlon team captain, Liz, and generally sucking at almost everything. Making this the most Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. And they even managed to sneak a Spider-Jesus pose in here as well. There are a lot of callbacks, as you'd expect from a reboot. They even tease us with another upside-down kiss. Thankfully, there have also been some improvements since 2002. For one thing, this Spider-Man's voiceover never lies to us about this being, quote-unquote, all about a girl. The fact he has a best friend who isn't the vertex of a perpetual love triangle, and who can thus participate in honest conversations, eliminates the need for voiceovers altogether, which was always one of the biggest challenges with adapting Spider-Man from the printed page, where you can use thought balloons or caption boxes, to the motion picture, where voiceovers are usually a sure sign that the protagonist is lying to us somehow. Ned discovers Peter's identity early on because Peter sucks at keeping secrets. But he takes it well and immediately volunteers to be tech support, which every superhero needs now, because if you're not Iron Man, you're not Iron Man enough. Iron Man himself seems to think so. He built this spider suit, and like all Stark tech, it comes complete with far too many options, and an onboard AI assistant, giving Spider-Man yet another person to talk to other than himself. He eventually names her Karen. Hope Daredevil never finds out about that. And she's played by... holy shit! Jennifer Connelly? Sweet cans and Jesus, she's back! I didn't even recognize her under all the distortion. Oh, now I'm just sad she's not playing Betty Ross again. Then again, nobody's gonna be playing Betty Ross anytime soon. Per the Hulk himself, Mark Ruffalo, last July, quote, Universal has the rights to the standalone Hulk movie, and for some reason, they don't know how to play well with Marvel, and they don't want to make money. The reason, Dr. Banner, is they want to make all the money. Not just the box office money. Theaters get to keep half of that anyway, so your take-home, from a studio perspective, winds up being chicken feed, and everybody knows it. They want all that sweet toy, t-shirt, thong, and blanket money, too. You think they made a Pacific Rim sequel because they just love giant robots so much? Hell, I don't know, maybe they do, but past a certain point in the corporate food chain, they look at all the Jaegers and all the kaiju and they see nothing but the action figure aisle in every Walmart and Target the world over. Sorry, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, good old Spider-Man and the women's voices in his head. Liz, Toombs knee Allen, is more of an ideal for our hero than an actual person. And this is not the best from a storytelling or general ethical perspective. But it is depressingly accurate to the American high school experience. Well, from about 20 years ago. I have no idea what y'all gotta deal with out there now, but imagine it's pretty much like what I had to deal with, just a lot dumber. Cast your minds back and you'll remember, no matter how much you've tried to repress it, a time when everyone around you seemed obsessed with the trivialities of the day, which were, of course, all the most important things that had ever happened ever, until the next day. Meanwhile, you walked around with this rich interior life that you would have loved to, but dared not to, share with anyone. The good thing about having a secret identity is you get to show off in public, where people who don't know you can give you props. And since they don't know you, you know their exterior validation is entirely objective. If you're lucky, maybe in a few years you'll realize that the need for exterior validation is itself the problem, and that you need to figure out who the hell you are before you can even begin to evaluate everyone else's opinion of who you are with the proper weight. But every time you look at that person of your preferred gender whom you like, who's obviously so nice and smart and kind and artistic, all thoughts cease and time just kind of slows down. And blinded by your own hormones, you fail to do even the basic amount of research into your love object. Which is one of the many ways you can wind up, say, for example, in a car on your way to homecoming with your date and her dad, who just so happens to be the supervillain you've been playing tag with for the last week or so. So this new Spider-Man reboot cleared its first hurdle by giving us a protagonist who is, indisputably and undeniably, Peter Parker. Not too cool for school skate punk scientist Peter Parker. And not horribly inconsistent because we crammed 5 scripts into one Peter Parker. Just Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Took them 6 movies, but they finally did it. So, yay. Who knows, maybe it'll only take 3 for them to get Miguel down. Or Miles. Or, shit, how about Jessica Drew? This movie cleared its next hurdle by creating an antagonist who, glory be, actually follows what they used to call the Marvel method. Heroes are defined by their villains, after all, and it's much more interesting, according to the Stan Lee handbook for such things, if your villain has inherently sympathetic, understandable, and even, if you turn your head and squint, altruistic motivations for their villainy. So like I said, the Vulture is a Jungian shadow of Tony Stark. So while Tony's the fail son of the Walt Disney of WMDs, who inherited more money than God and used it all to stay drunk until he was 40-something, George W. Bush style, baby. Aw yeah. Adrian Toomes is a working-class hero with a city-contracted salvage biz that quickly got pushed out of salvaging Shatari wreckage by, who else? Tony motherfucking Stark, the perpetual teenager, too obsessed with work, largest possible air quotes, to maintain relationships with the human beings who constantly orbit around him. Toomes, on the other hand, is a loyal husband and dedicated provider with an entirely normal family in the burbs. A job creator who seems to genuinely care about providing a livelihood from his crew. And only kills them on accident. And or after they threaten the security of his operation with flagrant and repeated dumbassery. Of course, he didn't just meekly hand over all the Shatari tech he salvaged. Oh no. He used it to create all sorts of wonderful toys. He is the Vulture, after all. And his reconstruction here is a rare instance of modern literalism doing something right for once. In real life, vultures can swallow cholera or botulism, and it won't have any effect on them that a nice long nap can't cure. And yet, as of this writing, 9 of the 22 known species of vulture are endangered, and the rest aren't doing so hot either. The world is changing, as our Vulture says, and his attempts to change with it only push him towards becoming the very thing he hates, the thing that cost him his last job. Running an underground business is not the best way to raise a nice middle-class family. And being right about the socio-economic circumstances that led you to start running an underground business is no justification for flooding the streets with frickin' laser beams. He is right, you know. The rich and the powerful, they get to do whatever they want. Guys like us, like you and me, they don't care about us. We build their roads and we fight in their wars and everything, but they don't care about us. We pick up their trash and eat their table scraps, and we're supposed to be grateful for the privilege. You know what I'm talking about. And it's nice to see a Marvel movie finally turn around and deal with its own subtext head on. After our Spider-Man almost sinks the Staten Island ferry by breaking up a weapons deal between Vulture's crew and someone named Matt Gargan. There's your fan service. Iron Man gives him the message. If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it. It took Tony's trifling ass 4 movies to learn this lesson, and he still occasionally backslides. It seems our Spider-Man only needs the one movie, and we seem to have lucked out with this one. Our director, and the phalanx of screenwriters at his back, knew what they wanted and they fucking did it. The John Hughes is stronger with this one than any movie I've seen since I stopped watching Kevin Smith. Hence the Ferris Bueller and the Flock of Seagulls song at Homecoming. Our filmmakers even managed to innovate. Every action scene in this movie takes Spider-Man to a place where he's never been on film before, and a place where his usual mode of transportation is almost completely neutralized. The Burbs, the National Mall, the middle of New York Harbor, and the airspace above it. Without buildings to swing from, our Spider-Man is forced to rely on quick thinking and creativity, the 2 superpowers money can't buy, and that no radioactive spider can gift you. Also, 2 of the main things that people like about Spider-Man in the first place, and oh my god, has someone finally figured this out? Even if they haven't, we at least get a good Spider-Man movie out of it, and that's all I wanted. Shit, when's the last time that happened? Or should I not ask that without bracing for some horrible confrontation in the comments section? And if you're me, you can see them blatantly setting up the pieces for further good Spider-Man movies in the future, once everyone's done with the Infinity War. Wait, Pepper's back? When the fuck did that happen? Wasn't her leaving the secret ingredient that made Tony go all crazy in Civil War? Don't even try telling me that his putting half the Avengers in Super Guantanamo convinced her to come back. Well, fuck you very much, Tony. The Vulture was right. In fact, fuck Earth in general. What say we get this sorry shit show into space? My sentiments exactly. Special thanks to an anonymous benefactor and Detective Steve. You too can support my superhero movie addiction by pledging me $1 on Patreon. And if you liked this review, hit buttons so the robots that rule our lives now know you liked this review. And if those buttons happen to form words in the comments section, so much the better. Next time, Guardians 2. Hell yeah.